Forget everything you knew about war games. The large-scale action game War Thunder will bring you
on that line. I'm going to go all the way to the top, and right below the grub command line Linux default, I'm going to do Control F disk, which is a simple. Press enter. Now I have IT, for example. For the highly recommend as shell. Now obviously, however, I'm going to have a guide linked in the description that shows you how to do everything. In short, you're going to want to type station space list to see all the Wi-Fi devices on your computer, and then station, let's say WLAN 0 is one of my Wi-Fi devices, space get dash networks, and this command would list all the networks on the, in the surrounding area. Obviously it's not working because I don't have Wi-Fi on this virtual machine, but once you're done setting all that up, you can type exit and press enter and go back to the main terminal screen. To make sure you have internet access, all you gotta do is type ping and then a domain name like denshi.org, for example, press enter and confirm that it does indeed ping the site and ping back. I'm gonna type Control C to type, it's a space, that's the main one. I'm gonna add /dev/SDA as an option. Now, you may not have SDA as your disk. You may have SDB, SDC, and so on, like all the letters of the alphabet. Or maybe you might have NVMe 0N1 or 1N1 or something like that, or even MMC BLK1 if you're using eMMC storage. In my case, now pressing enter, say BLK1 if you're using eMMC, just like that. Now pressing enter, if your disk is completely fresh and new and you've never used it before, you might be prompted for a label type. Since today's video is a UEFI install, I'm going to pick GPT and press enter. Once again, if your disk is new, you're going to see nothing here. It's just going to say free space. partitions. Because we're going to be wiping everything and installing only Linux in today's video, I'm going to go to every single one of these partitions and next partition, which we're going to use for booting. So I'm going to press enter, and as you can see, it's configured. Partition, which we're going to use for booting. So I'm going to press enter, and as you can see, it's configured it. Then we're going to be left with this free space. All you got to do here is press enter and leave it at the default size because it's going to fill up the rest of the disk by default. Press enter again, and you'll have a new partition. You can leave these pretty much like this by default. Now I'm going to go down to write. Press enter, type yes, and it's going to permanently write those changes to the disk. Finally, we can go down to where it says quit and press enter to leave CF disk. Alright, so if we run lsblk again, as you can see, we have SDA1 and SDA2 configured. There. The first thing we want to do is format our boot partition. This is pretty straightforward. All we got to do is run mkfs.fat space dash capital F32 space /dev/SDA1. Just like that. We're going to press enter and it's done. However, our root partition, because we're going to be encrypting it, is going to be a little bit more tricky. We're going to run crypt setup, just like that, lux, capital F, format, space /dev/SDA2 and press enter. This will give you a warning about overwriting data. We're going to type yes in capital letters over here and press enter. And now we're going to have to come up with a password. For the disk. Since this video is just an example, I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, obviously, in real life, you want to use a much more secure password than that, but 1, 2, 3, 4 will do for the purposes of this video. So I'm going to press enter, I'm going to type it again for the verification, press enter, and now it's going to start encrypting and formatting the drive. Now, this might take a little bit, so give it a while. Alright, so it's done, which means that we can now use the crypt setup tool to open the encrypted partition. We're going to run crypt setup open /dev/SDA2. Make sure you select the right partition here, and then you have to give it a name. Now, in today's video, I'm going to be using crypt root, which is a pretty common one. So I'm going to press enter. And now we have to type the password which we set, which is 1234. And we're going to press enter. Alright, so as you can see, it's opened. And now if we run lsblk again, we'll see that we have SDA, SDA1 and SDA2 as partitions, but under SDA2 we have another thing that says crypt root. That is going to be our decrypted root partition. Now that we've decrypted it, we can set a file system on it like we did with SDA1. So I'm going to run mkfs.ext4, or alternatively, if you prefer butterfs, you can do mkfs.btrfs. I'm going to stick to ext partition. Now that we've decrypted it, we can set a file system on it like we did with SDA1. So I'm going to run mkfs.ext4, or alternatively, if you prefer butterfs, you can do mkfs.btrfs. I'm going to stick to ext4 since it's the more default one. /dev/mapper/crypt root, just like that. So I'm going to press enter, and as you can see, it's formatted it using ext4. Now that we've done all of our disk formatting with all the file systems, we can actually start mounting them. So I'm going to run mount. I'm going to press enter, and as you can see, it's formatted it using ext4. Now that we've done all of our disk formatting with all the file systems, we can actually start mounting them. So I'm going to run mount/dev/mapper/crypt root. Make sure you select your root partition first. And I'm going to mount it to /mnt, just like that. Then we're going to run mkdir/mnt/boot. We're making this special boot directory to put our boot partition on. So I'm going to press enter. I'm going to type mount/dev/sda1. Remember, the boot partition is not encrypted, so we can just refer to it as sda1 /mnt, then /boot. And I'm going to press enter. If everyone else be okay, then /boot. And I'm going to press enter. If everyone else be okay again, as you can see, SDA1 is mounted in M&T boot, and our crypt root, our decrypted partition, is mounted in M&T. So all of our partition stuff is set up correctly. With that done, we can actually start installing Arch Linux now. All of our partition and everyone else correct. Strap command, I'm going to give you guys an important recommendation. I'm going to use the nano text editor to go into /etc/pacman.conf. Which is a file on the Arch Linux ISO which configures the package manager. Once we enter this file, I'm going to go down all the way to this section that says parallel downloads, and I'm going to go to the P and delete this pound symbol that's right in front of it, which uncomments it. Then you want to set the number next to it to something like 4, or depending on how many threads your computer has. This virtual machine is 4, so I'm going to set it to 4. What this option allows Pacman to do is download multiple packages at once. So if your internet connection is relatively fast, so I'm going to press Control and Linux-firmware. I'm going to just make that a little bit more obvious by spacing it out over here. But essentially, this Linux firmware package has a bunch of drivers for important devices you may have on your computer. For example, Wi-Fi. A little bit more obvious by spacing it out over here. But it's firmware. I'm going to just make that a little bit more obvious by spacing it out over here. But essentially, this Linux firmware package has a bunch of drivers for important devices you may have on your computer, for example, Wi-Fi. Now, there might be things that we're actually missing from this list of packages, but it's okay because we can always install them while we're configuring Arch Linux in our new system. So I'm going to press Enter. And it's going to start downloading the repositories and downloading all the packages. As you can see, it's downloading 4 packages at once, like in our new system. So I'm going to press enter, and it's going to start downloading the repositories and downloading all the packages. As you can see, it's downloading 4 packages at once like we configured it to do. This might take a while depending on your internet connection speed, and so don't be worried if it takes a long time. It successfully ran the backstrap command. It took a little Linux system on space dash capital U, and then This is going to send the output to a terminal so we can quickly look at it before we actually cat/mnt/etsy/fstep. And as you can see, it looks perfectly fine. All right, now that we have the first thing we're going to do is set the time zone for our system. The time zones are available in a directory called user share zone info. As you can see, there's a lot of regions here, and if you go to a specific one like America, there's even more time zones. So I'm going to pick, I don't know, America, New York. So to activate one of those time zones as the default, I'm going to do new_York. just like that, /Etsy/local time. What I'm going to do is run H. Enter. The next thing we want to do is synchronize the hardware clock, which is pretty easy. All I got to do is run HW clock --SYSTOHC, just like that, and press enter. And if you want to check to make sure the date is set correctly, you can just run the date command, which shows you the current date and time. The next thing is the locale. So the locale on the Linux system dictates how things are formatted. For example, customize that down using a down arrow all the way to the locale you want. In my case, /8, you want to remove the pound sign and control rate file conf, not gen this time, .conf. United States one, the content. That looks pretty cool. I'm going to do control. I'm going to set case. I'm going to use nano to go to Etsy hostname. Just like that. I'm going to set it to Alex Arch, just like that. That looks pretty cool. I'm going to do Control O and press Enter, and do Control X to exit the text editor. The next step is to set the password for our root user. To do this, we can just type PASSWD and press Enter, and you can just set it to whatever. You relatively secure if you don't want people on the computer. If you're not familiar, sudo is the command which allows somebody on Linux to have access to super user privileges, install packages and whatnot, without having to be the root. Actually, sudo and press enter. This is going to bring you to this text editor, which is actually Vim. Now, if you don't know how to use Vim, that's fine. You can do a colon and then WQ to exit it, and go back to the vsudo command, and at the beginning, press space. This way, when you press enter and run vsudo again, it will open it in nano. This file configures sudo, and if you go all the way to the bottom, you'll see this line that says wheel all all, it's a lot of alls commented out. So we're going to get rid of the pound sign over here, and just leave it as percentage wheel all. Now, as the text implies, you can uncomment it to allow members of group wheel to execute any command. So I'm going to do Control O, press Enter, Control A. To exit it, and now we're going to run user add -m-G wheel. That means we're adding this user to the wheel group -s/bin/bash. It's going to send us the bash shell when we log in, and I'm going to give this new user a name. I'm going to name him Alex. So I'm going to press Enter, and now I'm going to run PASSWD or password, and I'm going to give it the option Alex, which customizes Alex's password. I'm going to press Enter. I'm going to set it to 1, 2, 3, 4, just like that. Not very secure, but once again, this is just an example. And now you've created a user, given that user so until you see conf, open up this file and go down all the way until you see the hooks section. As you can see, it says hooks, base, udev, auto detect, and so on. You're going to go all the way to the block section, and after here, you want to add encrypt and LVM2 with a space between them, as if they were two new options. Now that you've added those, you can do Control O, press Enter, and Control X. These basically allow your system to support booting from an encrypted root partition We're going to go all the way to the CPIO. And second, we have to configure our bootloader, which in this tutorial is going to be grub. For the init CPIO step, all you got to do is run nano and go into going to be grub. All the way until you see the hooks section. As you can see it says hooks, base, udev, auto detect, and so on. You're going to go all the way to the block section, and after here, press enter and control. X. These basically allow your system to support booting from an encrypted root partition when PIO-P and press enter. Now this might take a while. But when it's running, make sure you see the encrypt and LVM2. So now that we've successfully configured the init CPIO, we're going to move on to the and pass it the equal we're installing grub to, and for no errors reported. And if we do an ls command and list the boot partition, as you can see, we have an EFI in capital capital letters partition over there. And if we list that one, it has Alex Linux, which is of course the name, configuring to run the grub by default. We have to configuration. See, there's a section I'll show you guys what up in the Etsy default grub configuration. I'm going to just quickly show you guys what it looks like. Etsy default grub. And as you can see, there's a section over here that says grub command line Linux default. In here, we're going to have to add some options, and I'm going to show you guys how to do that. There are two main things we have to obtain and put in our grub configuration. The first is the UUID for our encrypted device, and the second one is then -s UUID, and then the disk we're specifying. So the encrypted one is going to be /dev/SDA2, which, if you guys remember, that's where we ran crypt setup. So I'm going to press enter, and as you can see, etsy/default/grub. Just like that. I'm then going to run the command again and add another line to the config, but this time I'm going to run it on dev mapper crypt root, which, if you guys remember, is our decrypted partition, the one we were able to format into ext4. So I'm going to press enter, and now if we use nano to go into etsy default grub again, and we go all the way to the bottom of the file, you'll see these two new lines. This one that's 423bb89, which is our encrypted partition UUID, and this one that's 45901, and so on, which is our decrypted one. So what we're going to do is we're going to copy these lines to the top of the file and put them where I show you. So to copy and paste, or more specifically to cut and paste in Nano, you got to do Control K on the line. So I cut the first one and I go all the way to the top, and right under the grub command line Linux default, I'm going to do Control U, which is going to paste it right there. Or I actually went on top. Oh, that's my bad. I'm going to just put it below then. Control U. There you go. Now I'm going to use backspace to actually put it within the quotation marks, and I'm going to add another quotation mark here at the bottom, so remember to actually close the quotation marks on grub command line Linux default. Now I'm going to go back all the way to the in the quotation marks, and I'm going to add another quotation mark here at the bottom, so remember to actually close the quotation marks on grub command line Linux default. Now I'm going to go back all the way to the top, and right below the grub command line Linux default, I'm going to do Control U to paste it right there. Now that we have these two UUIDs, I'm going to show you some stuff that you have to write around them. So before this one, which remember guys, this is the encrypted partition one, we're going to write crypt device equals UUID equals, and then leave the UUID as it is, but after it you want to put a colon and then the name of the dev mapper partition that this one will be unlocking to, which, if you guys remember, it was crypt root. As for the other UUID, which is the unencrypted one, we're going to write root equals QUID, once again in capital letters, equals, then you want to put a colon two, which if you guys remember, it was crypt. Root. As for the other UUID, which is the unencrypted one, we're going to write root equals QUID once again in capital letters equals, then the UUID of our unencrypted partition, and then nothing after it. You don't have to add a colon or anything. Now make sure these are all on the same line. I know I put them on separate lines to make it easier, but make sure they are on the same line and separated by a space. So as you can see, if I move over here, you can actually see the other side of the line that actually finishes there. So at the end of this line, we're going to add a quotation mark to make sure that it closes off. And I'm actually going to delete this quotation mark here because we don't really need it. So as you can see, line and separated by a space. So as you can see, if I move over here, you can actually see make sure they are on the same line and separated by a space. So as you can see, if I move over here, you can actually see the other side of the line that actually finishes there. So at the end of this line, we're going to add a quotation mark to make sure that it closes off, and I'm actually going to delete this quotation mark here because we don't really need it. So as you can see, we have a full configuration. We have crypt device equals UUID, then equals the UUID of our encrypted partition dev SDA2, and then colon crypt root, which is its destination. Then we have root equals UUID equals then the UUID of our unencrypted partition, and then just nothing after that, just a quotation mark. Now, did you catch all that? Just in case you haven't, I actually have a text guide which covers most of the steps in this tutorial to do with encryption available in the description. As you can see, I have crypt device, or the encrypted partition, highlighted in yellow, and the unencrypted one highlighted in blue with these example UIDs that obviously aren't real. So you can follow this tutorial to double check your configuration to make sure that everything is working fine and dandy. Alright, but mkconfig space -o/boot/grub then /grub.cfg, and press enter, and as you can see, it generates it generated the grub configuration file successfully. Don't worry about the OS prober errors, those are just for dual booting and whatnot, which we're not going to be doing in today's video. Enter, Control X to exit the grub configuration. File successfully. Don't worry about the OS prober errors, those are just for dual booting and what. One little quick, quote, capital N network and then capital M manager. Now this will allow our system to start working with the network immediately once we turn it on by using the network manager system service, so we don't have to turn it on every time we turn on a system. This will enable networking as soon as we turn on our computer.
Yarıştırın, daha hızlı yapın, hayata geçirin. TürkNet Gigafiber çok yakınında olabilir. Ciddiyim. 1000 megabit'e kadar eşit indirme ve yükleme hızı.
Alright, but with that done, we're pretty much finished configuring Arch Linux. We can type exit over here to leave our chroot environment, and then type reboot to reboot into our system. And, hope for the best that it actually does boot up and prompt us for a password. So I'm going to press enter over here. Okay, so as you can see, we have grub, our first option is Arch Linux, which, that is what we need. So I'm going to press enter on it, and there you go. It actually asks us for the passphrase. So I'm going to type 1, 2, 3, 4 and press enter. And as you can see, it sent me straight to the log. Grub. Our first option is Arch Linux, which, that is what we need. So I'm going to press enter on it, and there you go. It actually asks us for the passphrase. So I'm going to type 1, 2, 3, 4 and press enter. And as you can see, it sent me straight to the login. Here I can log in with my user that I set up earlier. If you guys remember, I made him Alex, I made the password 1234, and I'm going to press enter, and as you can see, I'm I made the password 1234, and I'm going to press enter, and as you can see, I'm successfully logged into Arch Linux on an encrypted system. Alright, but now that we've set up this encrypted system, there's a few things we might want to do to improve the quality of life on it. In our password, it kind of to modify a system file, nano/lib/systemd/system, and then getty \@.service, and press enter. And as you can see, it's going to ask us for a password for sudo. Because as we set it up successfully, we can type 1, 2, 3, 4 and press enter. And then we're going to go down all the service and press enter. And as you can see, it's going to ask us for a password for sudoers. Because we set it up successfully, we can type 1, 2, 3, 4 and press enter. And then we're going to go down all the way until we see the part that says exec start. As you can see, it says espen, a getty and whatnot. We're going to get rid of this part over here that has the -O option, we're going to replace it with -A, which means auto login, and then pass a username, which in our case is going to be Alex. We're going to do Control O and press Enter. Then do Control X. And now if we run sudo reboot on our system, as you can see, we're going to be prompted for a password again. I'm going to type 1234, press Enter, and it sends us straight into our user. We didn't have to put in our password or our username or anything. We're already logged in as Alex, which saves us a lot of time. Now, before I close out this video, I'm going to quickly show you. I'm going to type 1234, press Enter, and it's sends us straight into our user. We didn't have to put in our password or our username or anything. We're already logged in as Alex, which saves us a lot of time. Now, before I close out this video, I'm going to quickly show you guys how to set up the Plasma desktop environment, since I know that a lot of people are going to want to use that. To do that, I'm going to run sudo pacman-S plasma-desktop. You might also want to install their terminal called console. I'm also going to install SDDM, which is the login or display manager for Plasma. That should pretty much be it. I'm going to press enter over here and type in my password, which is 1234. Once again, I'm just going to pick Pipewire Jack since, you know, I love Pipewire. I'm going to press enter over here. For fonts emoji, I'm just going to press enter. In fact, most of the stuff you can just press enter. And I'm going to press enter on this, which will automatically start installing everything. Once all those things are done installing, you can run again. I'm just going to pick pipe wire jack since, I love pipe wire. I'm going to press enter over here. For fonts emoji, I'm just going to press enter. In fact, most of the stuff you can just press enter. And I'm going to press enter on this, which will automatically start installing everything. Once all those things are done installing, you can run sudo systemctl enable. Send you to the login screen. Here you get to select between Plasma Wayland and Plasma Enter, and it sends us straight into our user. Guys, to do that, I'm going to stop. You might also want to install a demo before, and it sends us straight into our user. We didn't have to put it in our password DDM, which is the login or display manager for Plasma. That should pretty much be it. I'm going to press enter over here and type in my password. Which is 1234. I'm just going to pick pipe wire jack, since I love pipe wire. I'm going to press enter over here. For fonts emoji, I'm just going to press enter. In fact, most of the stuff you can just press enter, and I'm going to press enter on this, which will automatically start installing everything. Once all those things are done installing, you can run sudo systemctl enable --now sddm and press enter, and it will automatically send you to the login screen. Here you get to select between Plasma Wayland and Plasma X11 depending on which one you want to use. I'm going to just use the Wayland version. Runs on this. On emoji, I'm just going to press enter. In fact,